Okay, how's everyone doing? Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good Uhuru morning to you, folks at home tuning in. I'm just going to start off with some basic principles of African internationalism. And I'm going to go into a few other things, but I won't take too much of your time, and I really appreciate you tuning in. So African internationalism was developed by Omali Yeshitela, chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, founder of the African Socialist International, and leader of the Uhuru movement. African internationalism is the theory of the African Revolution, the political theory of the African working class in Africa, the US, and wherever Africans are dispersed around the world by colonialism and imperialism. This is the theory that will reunite and liberate Africa and African people everywhere. And I'm only going to read, there are several key points of African internationalism, but I'm just going to read the first 5. And then, for those of you interested in discovering and learning all the key principles of African internationalism, I highly suggest that you look into it yourselves. So, one of the key points of African internationalism: capitalism is a parasitic system born of and maintained through the enslavement of African people, the theft of African resources, and the colonial domination and genocide of African and oppressed people around the world. Africans are one people, forcibly dispersed by imperialism and facing the same colonial conditions of poverty, powerlessness, and oppression around the world. African people in the US are in a state of domestic colonialism. The wealth and power of the US and European imperialism are a direct result of the theft of the labor, land, and resources of African and other colonized peoples. Parasitic capitalism enables the entire white population, including white workers, to live on a pedestal of prosperity and democracy based on the stolen labor, resources, and land of African people and other colonized people. And I'll stop there, but I do recommend that you look into African internationalism. Just profound. I just want to salute and thank, with everything I have, Chairman Omali Yeshitela for working through the struggle and putting this out there for all to see. I want to then now move on to an event that is happening. An event that is happening on January 27th, and it is hosted by Utopia School, and it is called the True History of New York City. And I'm going to just read you some of the details so that you can get an idea of what it's about. And I believe that Connor Voss will be leading the tour. Again, that's January 27th. It's a Saturday. And it looks as though it's beginning at the National Museum of the American Indian at 1 Bowling Green in New York. So I'll just read you some of the details here. The True History of New York City. An anti-colonial, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist walking tour of the Big Apple. Tourists, newcomers, and longtime residents alike are drawn to the unparalleled wealth and opportunity on display in New York City. The glittering skyscrapers of the financial district and the fancy shops of Fifth Avenue beckon from the heights of capitalist excess. But why, amidst all this wealth and power, are black neighborhoods suffering under brutal police containment and unlivable conditions? As we know, New York City, like the state of New York and the country of the United States, was built from the kidnapping and trade of enslaved African people and the theft of land from the indigenous people. This process, known as colonialism, has continued uninterrupted for centuries and forms the pedestal upon which the wealth of the Big Apple is built, and underneath which its black working-class community struggles for survival and self-determination. The Uhuru Solidarity Movement will take guests on a revolutionary and unconventional tour of New York City that exposes the violent colonial foundations of its modern economic and cultural power, from the arrival of Dutch kidnappers, the growth of the British trade in enslaved Africans, and the mass graves of African people in Lower Manhattan, to the colonial legal policies that emerged during and after abolition, central booking, correction centers, and other aspects of police containment, and finally examining the removal of African communities through the development of the boroughs and the rapid gentrification of Manhattan, Harlem, Brooklyn, and Queens within this ongoing process of destabilizing and dividing the poor and oppressed Black working class. This tour centers and uplifts the ongoing resistance of Black communities both in New York and around the world, which has brought freedom and progress for sectors of white society too. Finally, we will look at reparations, the defining opportunity for white people to stand in genuine solidarity with the Black community's struggle for power and end to this violent, parasitic, social, economic, and political system. Yeah, so I highly recommend that. You can look it up if you Google True History of New York City, Utopia School, Uhuru Solidarity Movement, you'll find it. And it starts at 11 o'clock in the morning on January 27th. Again, it's a Saturday. And so I hope y'all can make that if you're in the New York City area. I also wanted to touch on something that I've been getting a lot of resistance to my standing in solidarity by paying reparations to the Black community. And I just want to touch on something that Connor Voss, Uhuru Connor Voss said, and he said, people say I'm in a divisive movement, but my thought is that it's more divisive to neglect real histories than to take responsibility for them. You hit it right there. And Casey Mackey, Uhuru Casey, followed up by saying, taking this position in support of reparations and solidarity with Black power is a dividing line that goes straight to the heart of our material existence as white people benefiting from the pedestal of colonial oppression and slavery. The African working class sets the terms: unity through reparations, or unity with colonialism and torture and terror and oppression of African people. There is no in between. Is unity through reparations, which I'm uniting with, or is unity with colonialism, torture, terror, and oppression of African people and indigenous people? There is no in between. We have to choose between the oppressed or the oppressor. So that's what I'm giving you all today. And I just want to say that I hope that that you take the time to really just to work through, your own political education. And I hope that you decide to choose with unity, that you choose unity through reparations, because it is the right side. And I think that's it for now. I did want to touch on a couple of things, but I'll wait till later to do that. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Fallon's Daily Toast. And to find out more about how you can be involved and say no to the FBI targeting the Black movement, go to uhurusolidarity.org. And if you'd like, you can print one of these out yourselves, and you can hold and take a picture and send it in, and we'll share it. We got to make a stand. This attack on the Black community has to end, and we have to protect them. And so, yeah, to the liberation of Africa and African people around the world. Uhuru.